Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Inside D2 Football. It is the championship edition. We know who's going to be in McKinney, Texas. Colorado School of Mines will face Harding in both those programs attempt to earn their first national championship. I'm Brandon Meisner, joined tonight by Chuck Bittner, Matt Witwicky, Justin Polizzi, and Chris Ferguson. Tony has the night off. Maybe. We will see. I want to congratulate Tony on his move, and we also are glad that we are not part of that, because that is a very miserable thing to be doing right now, especially in the middle of football season. But like I said, the national championship matchup is set. Colorado Mines will face Harding in the game. A first-time national champion will be crowned. It's also the first-time appearance for a Great American Conference team. Records were set on Saturday. We'll talk about that. Both semifinal games had records set. We'll also update you on coaches' movement throughout Division II. 4 or 5 notable changes. We'll answer your comments and criticisms and interact with you in the overtime period. We had a lot of fun doing that last week. Hope to do the same thing again this week. Again, thank you for being here with us on Inside D2 Football. Let's look at the semifinals, guys. I think the results were what we thought they would be, not necessarily the scores. And I think, Whit, if you look at the Harding-Lenora-Ryan game, all but one of us picked Harding to win. So the outcome certainly was not surprising, but we didn't expect that kind of football game.
Yeah, and it didn't take very long for us to kind of see which way this was going to get going. Right away, Harding, marches and scores, and then they do a onside kick and really catch Lenore-Ryan off guard. And this is when Blake Delacruz kind of starts his day off. The dive was open a whole lot. And you see him score here, and all of a sudden we're 14 goose. And, Lenore-Ryan gets back going here. Sean White hits a ball downfield. Nice pass. Then the next play, they think they got something cooking, and not so fast. And Harding's defense, probably a very underrated piece, and also how good they are at the special teams. We've kind of seen that here, throughout the playoffs. And there's that guy going again, Blake Delacruz. They had a heck of a time with him today, going through the middle, or I should say Saturday, and then he goes in again. Real interesting play here. Lenore-Ryan decides to tackle the punter, which never works well when he doesn't actually have the ball. But then we've got Braden Jay, underrated player for Harding. Does a lot of good things. Goes in for the score. Lenore-Ryan was able, I thought, to hit the ball downfield a few times, and maybe something they probably could have attacked more. The rushing game was completely not there for them on the day. Braden Jay, again, on the kickoff right before half, the kicker might get him, and maybe he won't. And Braden Jay goes for a long tud, and all of a sudden, we get a blowout by halftime, Brandon, and Harding says, screw it, let's throw the ball around a little bit. So they hit a downfield shot right here, and all of a sudden, it's just kind of that day, and they're still getting loose in the running game now. It's to the outsides, and Paul Simmons and his crew, tremendous effort. And, it was really interesting to see when Harding gets to the point where they're so comfortable that they decide that, you know what? I know you're having a lot of trouble with the dive, but we're going to hit a shot downfield on you because your safeties are coming downhill. It just kind of everything went their way, and I thought Lenore-Ryan didn't have an answer for him on defense, and I think got to find out how fast that Harding defense was themselves.
Justin and I were talking in the pre-show about that, and Justin, I had mentioned to you, as you saw, or as we saw in the 3rd and 2 play, they had ran Dwayne McGee to the right side, and Harding just blew it up. And it was kind of that kind of tough sledding all day for Lenore-Ryan. They couldn't get anything going, really.
Yeah, their defense did a great job when Lenore-Ryan, when McGee was trying to press it, north and south, and then he would try to bounce it. The defense did a great job of just pushing it to the sideline, not really giving McGee much room to get going. And we saw in the last couple of weeks, that's kind of got their offense going for Lenore-Ryan, as McGee's been able to bounce it outside, find a crease, and hit it deep. And they weren't able to do that on Saturday. And the Harding defense kept them bottled up and just didn't let that ground game start going. And they did a great job, mixing up some stuff as well, Brandon, with their linebackers and their coverage. And it really, Sean White just never really could get in a rhythm early in the passing game. And it was a couple I felt like big drops by the receivers where it was bouncing off their hands. So it was a tough day, but it really started, like you said, up front and just not being able to establish the run.
Chris, I'm curious as to your opinion. You were there a week ago, right? Grand Valley and Harding when it was a 7-6 ball game. What was your take on the game, having seen what was really a fist fight for 60 minutes the previous week and then saw what happened yesterday?
Well, I thought Lenoir-Rhyne would try to establish the run. And I think the thought with Grand Valley was that maybe they should have went to the run a little bit more. But I was a little concerned about the size of the two lines, the offensive line for Lenoir-Rhyne and the defensive line for Harding. And the way that Harding sort of lived in the backfield of Grand Valley last week, I felt that Lenoir-Rhyne was probably going to have a hard time establishing the run, and that's exactly what happened. And anytime that happens, it just disrupts the timing. Lenoir-Rhyne can sling the ball downfield, but sometimes they do need a little bit of time for receivers to kind of run their routes. And Harding just isn't going to give you a lot of time to do that. And I think you saw some of that on Saturday as well.
Chuck, what were your thoughts overall? Now that everybody's talked about it, and picked it apart, what were your thoughts? Pick on the carcass that's left.
Well, it was hard to watch when you're watching it, hoping that it's a good game. Obviously, if you're a Harding fan, a GAC fan, you loved what you saw. For those of us who just want to see a good game, and obviously I have a lot of years working in the SAC. I know people at Lenoir-Rhyne. I wanted them to have a good day. It was hard to watch. It's always hard to watch when a team is on that stage and doesn't represent themselves in the way that they can. Because Lenoir-Rhyne just underperformed really, really badly. They were outplayed. They were outcoached. They made just a litany of inexcusable errors that you normally would not see. So, you kind of wonder if a little bit of the difference in this type of a game for them. I mean, Lenoir-Rhyne doesn't have to go on an airplane to go play an away game ever. They haven't done that in probably years. So, it's just a different feel, different vibe. It does shorten your prep a little bit, and to prepare for a team like Harding with a disrupted schedule, not your normal game week, that's a really hard thing to do. So I think maybe it did impact them. So yeah, it just kind of was disappointing to see a team that we know is very good have such an awful day on that stage, but made for not the game that we expected it to be. So tough day for Lenoir-Rhyne, but man, also just so impressed with Harding. What they've done in the playoffs. You really think about it, they weren't challenged in the regular season like at all. Henderson State was the only team that got within 2 scores of them in the regular season. They just dominated the GAC completely. So they get into the playoffs, and then you play, 3 completely different types of opponents and find ways to win 3 very different types of football games. Just speaks to the quality of team that Harding is. So, I was disappointed for Lenoir-Rhyne, but also watching really, really impressed with what Harding is as a team.
Chuck, I totally agree with your take about, we got to see earlier in the playoffs, I thought Augustana had a pretty darn good football team, and they went into Mines, and it was just a train wreck for them. And, Mines went and scored a touchdown right away, and then Augie screwed up on special teams or at their own 1-yard line, and then the game just snowballed from there. I thought there was a lot of similarity to the Lenoir-Rhyne situation where that the onside kick, they're down 7-0, and all of a sudden they got Harding's got the football at midfield again, and they're revving their engine, and it's like all of a sudden Lenoir-Rhyne is really just behind. And I think that they felt the weight of the situation right at that moment. And Harding's just, it is what it is, guys. They have looked really good this season, and we thought this could be the kind of season where they could really compete on the national stage, and they have really come through.
Yeah, and I agree with a lot of what you said there, Whit, and I think that also contributed to a couple of mistakes. And we kind of made light of the roughing the punter penalty there because it was just so egregious. Like, what are you doing? What happened there?
Yes.
But that was also a really huge moment in the game because that was the first time Lenore Ryan had stopped them and
Right.
forced the punt. And so you're actually getting the ball, and maybe you get a little bit of momentum, maybe go down and get a touchdown back and get yourselves into the game. And you immediately give the ball right back to them, and then they score, and like two, 3 plays after that. And it's just that to me, that was really the point that just said that it's just not going to happen for Lenore Ryan today.
Yep.
Well, it was sometimes it's just one of those games, and the thing that I've always said about Harding is any team has to play them once before they understand what they're playing. Everybody looks at stats and tries to say, well, Grand Valley held them to X amount of yards, or this other team held them to X amount of yards, or we hold teams to 60 yards rushing. I think you throw that out the window until you've actually played them before. And it was very shocking, actually, that Grand Valley did such a good job against them because that was the first time that they had played. But nonetheless, Lenore Ryan understands what they're dealing with nationally now. Will have the opportunity to adjust and make another run. They've been in the championship game again. They've been in the semifinals again. So obviously they're not a program that's going to go anywhere, and certainly will be a contender in Super Region 2.
Now, it was kind of funny, Brandon, before you move on, just for a history lesson for people who maybe haven't been around for as long as some of the rest. It was kind of funny last week when we were breaking this game down to talk about how, Lenore Ryan hasn't seen an offense like this. Mm-hmm. Because if you've been around for a while, like the SAC had several teams that ran that offense up until really even just the last couple of years. And in fact, until like 2015, Lenore Ryan was one of those teams.
Right.
And there was a record that was set. I think we're going to talk about this a little bit later, but there was a team.
Talk about it anyway.
We'll go ahead and talk about it now. Yeah. Harding actually set a new Division II team rushing record for rushing yards in a season. It's like 5,600 and change, which is just a huge number. And the previous record was set by Lenore Ryan in 2013 because they ran a similar style of offense. So it was just funny that, we're talking about Lenore Ryan not seeing this type of offense when for so long that was their offensive identity.
Right. And they hadn't played it. And even then Harding does it differently than
they do.
Certainly than Lenore Ryan did. Lenore Ryan could throw much better when they were running that, like in 2013, 14.
They 15. Did. Lenore Ryan might throw, at 60 or 80 passes in a season.
Well, that dwarfs Harding's right now, but we saw the unicorn, which was them throwing a pass in those highlights. So let's move on. Super Region 4 versus Super Region 1. Colorado Mines has been ranked number 1 for quite a while, and they proved that maybe they are the best team in the country. A 35-7 win over Kutztown. Good showing by Mines in the game.
For sure. And actually I thought it was about as good of a showing as I could have expected from Kutztown as well. I did not expect this to be the better game of the day. Let's be totally honest about that. But, we thought Kutztown had a little bit of Central Washington quality to them that might let them hang around for a little bit, and there's a few things that they do well that could have created some problems. And I was under no delusion that Kutztown was going to go out to Golden and win this game. I had no expectations of that happening. Right. At all. But they came up with a few stops in the first half that at least allowed them to hang around for a little bit. And then Judd Novak, I think everybody got to see that Judd Novak is just a gamer. Here's his big moment in the game. He's just very difficult to get down. He's just plays with poise and confidence well beyond his years. But when you're on the same field with John Matoka in the same game, you're not going to get talked about a whole lot because my goodness, I mean, what more can he do? He had another fabulous day, 30 of 37, 3 touchdowns, set college football's all-time career touchdown record. So another great day for him. And Mines did a really nice job in some critical situations in this game, I thought, guys. One of them was after that Judd Novak score that we saw on the film there. That made it a 14-7 game late in the second quarter. So that puts Kutztown right in the game at half. Mm-hmm. And if they could have gotten a stop before going to half, they're right in the game, just like Central Washington was a week ago. They were tied. So if you're within 7 points of Mines at the half, you're doing some work. And Mines gets down the field in the 2-minute offense and puts one in with a few seconds left on the second quarter clock. Didn't even use a timeout on that drive. And that really just kind of sent the message that, yeah, you're playing well, but you're not going to come into Golden and win this game against us. So pushing that lead back to 2 scores before the half, I thought was huge. And the other big moment was early in the fourth quarter. It was 28-7 at that point. Kutztown had a little bit of a drive going, had a little bit of offensive momentum. Actually got down inside the red zone, and they're looking to maybe make this a 2-score game with about 12 minutes left. Turn the ball over, and then Mines goes down the field to score to salt that game away and take any thoughts of a comeback or getting a few points late in the game. Just completely took that away from them. So some really good situational football there for Mines. Kutztown did a little bit of what they did against Slippery Rock when they played them twice this year. When they played the Rock, Kutztown was very committed to minimizing what Kyle Sheets could do. Kyle Sheets is one of the best wide receivers in the country, and they really took him out of the game. I kind of suspected they would try to do something similar with Max McLeod, and they had a little bit of success with that, but Mines was just so adept at finding what other options are open to them, and Flynn Shealy ended up having a huge day. 11 catches for, I think, 181 yards and 2 touchdowns. Some really good circus catches. And, again, Matoka just finding the right spot to put the ball for him. A lot of back shoulder throws, kind of intentionally underthrowing the route so that he can come back to it. Just the way that those guys are on the same page with each other all the time is just incredibly impressive.
The Pete Sturbick, the coach at Colorado Mines, talked about that after the game, that they feel like they're deep enough at wide receiver. And guys like Shealy step up in games where they're double teaming Max McLeod. And in games where they think they can go one-on-one with McLeod, that's where he shines. Right. But in other games, they'll find guys like Shealy, and he had a huge game. I mean, I don't know, but that had to be the best game of his career. That was an outstanding performance yesterday.
Right. Well, when it's at home in a national semifinal and you put up those kind of numbers, that's certainly going to be a memorable one for him for sure.
Absolutely. So, what were anybody else's thoughts on that game before we move on and talk about what's happening this week? But any other thoughts on the Colorado Mines win over Kutztown?
You know what? In watching it, I was. You know what? You watch John Matoka, and he gets out of stuff so much. It's wild, and it's almost crazy when he doesn't at that point. But I mean, you watch him; he's under duress. All of a sudden, he steps up in the pocket, and 15 yards later, he's down the field. And I mean, he does so much of that so well. Or he'll get going, and all of a sudden, a defender comes up, and he just dinks the ball off. He always knows where his outlets are. I mean, it's just wild watching his experience on the field. He takes so many plays that look like they have nothing, and they end up getting 8 or 7 or 10, and it's just crazy. And that's something I really saw a lot of. I mean, they had a play for a touchdown right there where it looked like he was going to dink it off, and he said, "No, you're going with him. I'll run," and he just runs it in. And he's 5'11", 180, with cleats and helmet, and you know what? He plays with reckless abandon, throws his body around all over the place, and the moment he gets hit down, he's the first guy up. I mean, it's just wild watching it. I don't know, Coach. In watching Matoka, it just seems like he's different than a lot of the other guys we watch.
Excuse me. No, he is. And he's electric, and he's able to get himself out of things. It's really impressive when you watch him. His eyes are always downfield. He's got a good feel for the game. So he's got pressure on his backside. He's able to step up, avoid it. The same thing when it's in his face. He knows where those defenders are. He's able to step up and make those plays. And it's almost like, it's third down and he needs to make a play. It's not there. He tucks it, runs it, and picks up the first down. He just finds ways to make things happen. And again, for me, that's a difference maker. It's hard to quantify those little things that he does every day and every game. Every time you turn the game film on, you're watching him pick up a big first down. You're looking at him convert. He puts his body on the line, literally puts his body on the line. Every time you see him, he's diving and so on and so forth. But I think for me, and I'm not taking anything away from that Mines team, because they're a talented group and they play well together. But I think it all starts with Matoka and what he brings to the table. And that's what intrigues me. You watched it this week. We watched it last week. And look, Kutztown, I felt like came out and played them tough. It wasn't like they got away early. It was a little bit of a fight.
They hung around. They hung around. They made him work for it.
They did. And the same thing last week. And you look at Matoka and he's able to grind it out. I'm interested to see this week his matchup against the Harding defense. We'll talk about that more later, but it's really intriguing when you see a guy like this and you watch him adapt to the teams he plays.
It's also just something to just appreciate when we get to see it, and guys like that don't come along every year. We always have special players in D2, but it's just something to appreciate when you get to see it for all of us.
He's one of those kids guys that, and I don't know, what their thoughts are, but he seems to me like one of those kids that you love because he just is so dynamic, but it makes you shake your fist because it's like, hey, your progression or, do this. And no, I'm just going to tuck it and run, or I'm going to throw it here. And so, I think he's a lot of fun to probably coach. And as a coach, you probably learn just as much as you're giving to him and what he brings to the table.
Yeah.
He seems, from all accounts, he's a pretty special kid as well. So
for sure.
I guess he's probably 23 now, or what's he been there? 18 years? Maybe he's 33. I don't know.
Exactly.
And nonetheless, he's a pretty special guy. So you're right. Everything you guys said about him, every compliment you gave him is well deserved. So, we know who the two teams will be. It will be Colorado School of Mines versus Harding. One of them will earn their first national championship, and we hope that you would join us Saturday morning around 10 a.m. I think. We will preview the show. We've done this for 2 years. It is one of the favorite things that we do, at least for me. It's stressful but energetic. It's live. It's fun. We have a bunch of guests on. Whit has taken the lead in interviewing some of these guests and has done a phenomenal job. He'll be filling that role again. Chuck and I will be, quote unquote, in studio pushing the buttons. But it's been a blast to do it. Like I said, we'll have guests. We'll have interviews with the coaches in the game. We'll pick the winners and just talk about the game in detail. And we will do that on Saturday morning. And we would love to have you join us and treat it like the pregame. As we know, ESPN's not really going to talk about that until the broadcast starts. But we will be there for you to be part of your tailgate, part of whatever and however you want to experience the championship game. We will be there for that. We hope that you will join us as we celebrate the 2023 national championship game.
Brandon, that is from 10 a.m. local time in Texas.
Oh, thank you. Yes.
Yep.
11 a.m. Eastern.
And we're going to see if they're going to let us be on the air for about 90 minutes or so until they decide that they've gotten sick of us and tell us.
That might only give us a 5-minute show.
Yeah, right. Yeah. They might tell us to shag tail after about 10 minutes, but we'll see.
Well, they generally force us to sign off about 30 minutes before kickoff because
we have to by rule because of the contract with ESPN.
Yeah, because sure they're going to have the blimp and Lee Corso is going to come in and do a headgear pick and all that for the game. So
exactly. So
whatever. We'll have fun with it. We're pretending like we know what's going to happen during that show. We don't, but it'll be a lot of fun.
Well, I think it's a blast every year. So
it'll be fun.
And it's always good to see all these guys, or at least as many as show up in person. I can't tell you how much it means to me and how much I get a kick out of it. So, all right, Chuck. You talked about earlier that there were some records set during yesterday's semifinal games. I can't remember exactly which ones we talked about. So I would ask you to kind of lead this and talk about the different records, since you were the one who will remember what was talked about.
Yeah, well, there were a couple. I think I probably am the one that actually let slip on both of these already. So I'll try to tap dance my way through talking about them again. But there were two very big records that were set yesterday. One was the Division II team record for rushing yards in a season. Harding went over 5,500 yards for the season in that game. They actually ended up going over 5,600 in their 14th game of the season. That set a new record. The previous had been held by Lenore-Rhyne. That was set in 2013 when the Bears won their semifinal game and went all the way to the championship game. It's actually the last championship that's played in Florence, Alabama. So huge record there for the Bisons. They obviously deserved it. They were well over 400 yards rushing every game this season, I believe, except maybe one or two. Huge numbers for them all year long. So a much deserved team record for the Bisons. And, coaches love those team records. It's great to have the individual numbers, individual awards, but when you have a team record like that, that is definitely something that Harding will take a lot of pride in. And John Matoka had 3 touchdown passes yesterday, so he is now college football's all-time record holder for total touchdowns in a career, passing Tyson Bagent, who set that same record 1 year ago. So congrats to John. Another career milestone, one of many career records that he owns. And also both programs who will be in the finals with Harding and mine set new program best with 14 wins in a single season. Pretty remarkable for both of those teams. And obviously somebody looking for a 15th win this coming Saturday. So a couple of important records and milestones from this past weekend.
Not to be Debbie Downer, Chuck, but we talked yesterday and I told you I kind of feel bad for the team that loses because no matter what their achievement was, they get your first loss of the season in a national championship game. Yeah, that's tough, especially when your program's never won one before.
Right?
That's going to be a factor. These guys are going. I mean, it's a national championship game. People are motivated always to play every game, but not much less a national championship game. But there's going to be a extra little jolt of energy, I think, just for these teams, trying to get that first one. It's a special thing to get your first one. Anybody who's had their school win one, it's pretty awesome. That first one's pretty special.
And I think you read it off the top, Brandon, but this is also the first appearance ever for the Great American Conference.
It is, yeah.
In the D2 championship. Now the GAC is only about 12, 13 years old, I want to say. So they haven't been around since the formation of D2, but this is their first ever appearance in the national championship game. So big moment for the GAC as well.
Yeah. All right. As always, want to mention our, let me change our layout here, guys. Want to mention our big sponsor, Boss's Pizza and Chicken. Been with us all year, going to be with us for a while. We're proud to partner with them to bring you Division II football. We're proud to fail at their eating contest. Sorry, I had to bring it up again, Whit, but
yes, exactly.
you guys know that all the things by now that they offer. And if this is your first time watching the show, they're mostly an upper Midwest company, but they're looking to expand, and they're looking to expand into the lower Midwest, or even as far as Texas, the heartland of the United States, I think would be maybe a good way to describe it. And they're looking for franchisees. And if you are so inclined, please visit their website at Boss's Pizza and Chicken. And you go into the upper right-hand corner, there's a link for franchisees. Have a discussion with them. Matt is friends with the owner, Jeremy, and a great guy I think to work with. And please let them know that you heard about it from us. And they would like to expand. It's a company worthy of expansion. And like I said, we are proud to have partnered with them. So, all right, gentlemen, this Friday, is that right? The Harlon Hill Trophy, one of these 9 finalists. Is that right, Chuck? Is it Friday? Yep. Friday, December 15th. One of these 9 finalists will be announced for the Harlon Hill Trophy. So really quickly, Matoka played this weekend. Do you think that, when was the voting done? Was it already done before this week?
I believe the voting was done prior to this past weekend.
Okay.
I'd have to go back and verify that, Brandon, but I think the final voting was already done.
Okay.
I think you're right, Chuck. It was really close to the end date, but I think you're right. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I used to know the timing of it much better, but our picks were Matoka, Zabrowski, and then Shigog in that order. But who knows what it'll the way it'll end up. But nonetheless, there's 9 deserving players there, and I think it's clear that Matoka and Zabrowski are the front runners for the award this year.
Brandon, I think you can make a case that those two are really a coin flip. You know, and I think Shegog's a solid third too.
Right.
You know, it's going to be, you know, if you dig into the stats a whole lot, Zabrowski. If you take a look at everything Matoka provides, a team who's going to the championship and his fourth go around, then it's Matoka. I mean, I don't think you can go wrong with either one who wins, and I don't
agree.
think either one. I don't think any of us will be real surprised. You know which one either
Right.
one at that point.
Right.
Right.
There's going to be no outrage, no
No.
matter which one wins.
No, I don't.
No,
think so.
and I think, like I said last week, I'm real excited that going right into the announcement, we won't know who the winner is going to be. I
Yes.
think the last couple of years we pretty much knew who the winner was going to be, and
Well,
I don't
we
think
were kind
I
of
don't-
driving that bus, weren't we, a little bit?
well, yeah, I think all of us were pretty united in who we thought the winner was going to be, but I think we all felt pretty comfortable with who it was going to be. I don't know. I don't know how the voting's going to go this time around. I will be genuinely surprised when the announcement comes out to see who gets it.
Whit, by the way, I'm getting a kick out of Harlon Hill, Chicago Bear, pointing at you right now in your Bears attire. I know. Side note.
Yeah, this Bears don't win enough games, so every once in a while, when especially when they beat the Lions, who were everybody's darling, a month ago. Sometimes you peak early. Sorry, Clay.
Hey, this is D2 adjacent, but how about Cody Schrader getting some votes in the Heisman balloting? The
Yeah,
former
he
Truman
finished like
State,
7th or 8th or something like that.
the
Chuck?
former Truman State star,
Right.
playing now at Missouri. Yeah, he got votes for the Heisman. I think he was 8th in the final voting.
One of
Yes.
the top running backs in the country. That's really awesome.
That's
It is.
amazing.
It is fantastic. All right, let's move on to coaching news. My friend Bill Maskell has announced his retirement at Midwestern State. DC Rich Renner has been promoted to head coach. That was announced about 3 or 4 hours ago, something like
couple hours
that.
ago.
And
Yeah.
that's breaking news. But Maskell been there for 22 years, and I think he's won the Coach of the Year 5 times, which is a record in the Lone Star. And old Billy Maskell will be missed. So, but congratulations to Rich Renner. This happened, I think, before our show last week, but we weren't able to get it on. Teddy Keaton was at Allen and then accepted the head coaching job at Clark Atlanta. Now, Chris, as our resident HBCU expert, Allen had a great year. Why would somebody move to Clark Atlanta? What's the dynamic there?
Well, Clark Atlanta really hasn't won much of anything, and actually, the coach that he's replacing is the legendary Willie Slater, who was at
From
Tuskegee for a very
Tuskegee.
long time. I'd imagine. I think some of this is, they have a new president who wants to win, who has been at a program or at a school that had a winning program before. So I imagine that this may be an instance where they're going to put more resources into the program.
Fantastic.
And then the other thing is, he was in Columbia and playing in the shadows of another school, a rival school that we'll talk about very briefly. But
Yes.
now this puts him in Atlanta and in that talent-rich area. So, certainly will be interesting to see. We've seen instances where a coach leaves, right, and players follow that coach. Especially we saw that with like Permian Basin. Now they've got David Wright, who was actually one of the more productive quarterbacks in Division II
Right.
at Allen, and does he decide to make that transfer to Clark Atlanta as well? So tune in there. But I think
portal, right, Ferg?
I don't know. I haven't seen it. I've been
I saw
looking
that.
on and
Yeah,
off.
I think I saw that.
Yeah. So I mean, there's a good chance that he lands at Clark, and that'll be interesting to see how that changes the dynamic a little bit in the AUC. So,
All right. And then so let's stay in the HBCU world. Janice Berry, hired by South Carolina State, a move that we all feared but kind of expected. And congratulations to him. Jerry Odom, though, at Tusculum, resigned, and he will be the defensive coordinator at Western Carolina. So, several jobs remain open in Division II. As those
It's a lot.
hirings take place, we will be interviewing them. So continue to visit the site. Whit and I did a lot of that last year, had a really good time with that. And it's always good to get to know somebody and how they're going to operate differently at their new school. So, and again, we want to remind you that we will have a show next week. We're going to keep harping on this preview show, 11 a.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Central. And we will preview the national championship game, talk about the contestants. We'll talk with people. Michael Zeman is already confirmed. There will be others that we'll have and talk to them. And my old friend Mel Churchman is likely to be there. We've talked to him on both of these shows. It's always great to have him on there. And we will continue to talk about that all through tonight's show. Tell you what, let's go ahead and want to thank our supporters, and then we will be right back with more Inside D2 Football. Just wanted to take this opportunity to thank those who have supported D2 Football this year. D2 Football is free, but it isn't cheap. Your support helps offset our expenses and allows us to expand our coverage. If you like what we're doing, please consider supporting us. Visit d2football.com/support. Or if you want to do it the old-fashioned way, click contact on the website to find our mailing address. But again, thank you for supporting D2 Football. All right. Thank you. I want to thank all the supporters. It means a lot to us. We could not do this without you. It's tough enough to run it, but we would absolutely go in the hole without you. So the Florida Beach Bowl. K. Ferg, tell me all about it.
Well, there's one bowl game left in Division II, and it actually features the two HBCU conferences, the CIAA and the SIAC. And we haven't seen a bowl game from these two conferences in quite some time. If you think about longtime folks for Division II, remember the Pioneer Bowl. And this kind of has feelings of that, especially because the champions from both schools don't play in this game. And so a little bit of drama behind this one for various reasons.
Fantastic.
First,
share it with us.
yes. So first of all, the CIAA representative is Johnson C. Smith, who was 7-3. Great record, right? But if we think about this for a second, you've got two teams who didn't get selected for this bowl, and it was kind of questionable whether they were even contacted and had any interest in playing. That was Virginia State, who only had one loss on the season, and Fayetteville, who also had a better record and won the Southern Division. So, I know Johnson C. Smith lobbied via the X machine to be in this game, and they got selected to attend. And then you got Fort Valley, and the link between this two is that Mo Flowers, the head coach at Johnson C. Smith, was actually at Fort Valley last year. So he jumped ship, went back to his alma mater, and now he's got to play those guys again. And more importantly, you did have their former starter at Johnson C. Smith also transferred from Fort Valley, but he's probably not playing in this game. So. But there's a lot of link between the two beyond the fact that they're both blue and gold in color. So hopefully there's no one of those what is it, NFL, like the color rush type deals.
Yeah.
Hopefully it's not that, because it might be hard to follow. Nonetheless, you got 273 teams in there, so should be a pretty exciting game. John C. Smith has one of the better defenses, at least statistically, in Division II. So they haven't really allowed a ton of points against any opponent. Certainly had some struggles on offense, but should be interesting to see their true freshmen run the offense again in this game. And then Fort Valley has had their ups and downs. Certainly was in contention for the SIAC appearance, but kind of faltered late. If you think about how Albany State got into the championship game, it was because they defeated Fort Valley to end the season. So in the regular season. So this is a Wednesday game. It's a little bit odd of a time. You can see this on, I believe, HBCU Plus, which is you can find that on like Apple TV and Roku and those areas. But I think it's a 3:30 start if I remember correctly. So yeah, kind of middle of the day game. You know, if you're still working, put it on. Watch it as you as you work. But really interested to see. There's a lot of excitement, at least from the teams in this game.
All right, very good. Just want to remind you that we'll have. I assume you're going to be watching the game, but if not, you can follow us on our scoreboard or Twitter. But I assume you're going to be watching the game. I'm sure our guys will be tweeting some things as the game is going on. Championship game is such a different day than every other day of the year. Your reminder again to like, share this video, subscribe to the channel, follow us on our social media accounts. Let me I'll go ahead and pull those up, and you can see all of us. Most of them are just my name, and then everybody else has an abbreviation or something, but you can see them there. And I would love for you to follow us, interact with us on social media. Having said that, if you tag us in nonsense, we're unlikely to react, so don't waste your time. You can visit it there on Facebook at D2Football. Most of our socials are at D2Football, and we've had a lot of signups. It's what happens when new teams are going further and further in the playoffs. We've had a lot of signups in the message board, which has the most devoted fans in the country. The guys the people who really know Division II football. Want to thank ESPN, WFMZ, the Atlanta Voice, Tom Morris Photography, Tim Flynn, and Scott Good for all their help in what they did for the show this week, and also some media credits. Like we said, overtime will be next. We will answer your questions, criticism, and we really like to interact with you on there, so don't be shy. But we'll come back on the other side of this, and we will start the overtime shortly. But for those who do not stick around, and for everybody else watching it, thank you for watching Inside D2 Football.